We're off. Perfect. Okay. Hi, everybody. Jeff Taylor here from the Social Media Breakfast Montreal. I've got Warren Wilansky from Plank Design, who we're going to chat briefly with in terms of what's coming up here on February 19th, our next event at the La Bistro down in Griffintown between 8 and 10 a.m. We'll post the link to the tickets here in the YouTube description once this all gets uploaded. Basically, our first ever panel, Warren is going to be one of the panelists. We've got 3 other people that I'm hoping to get in on a quick talk like we're going to have today. And Warren, if you don't mind, I know we've shared your bio on the ticket and the blog post, but if you can give us a quick background on yourself and certainly Plank. I personally have a good sort of a little bit of in terms of knowledge of where it all began and some of the folks you have the opportunity to be working with. But if you can share with the SMBMTL faithful what it is you're up to and what you're all about in a few minutes, we'd appreciate that.
Okay, I'll do my best. And obviously, if you have any questions for me, shoot. So I started Plank in December 1998 with a partner. We were working, both of us were working at different companies, doing freelance work. You know, in the early days of the internet. Yeah, 98 was pretty early on. So we started a company just out of the thought that we could just do something a little bit different than what place we were working. We were really design focused, and that was what we wanted to really invest our time into. She left in 2004, and since then I've been running as the sole owner of the company, with recently somebody, Steve Bissonette, has come on as a partner who's been our longest serving employee. He's been here since almost day one and was, you know, hire number 1 here at Plank. We're now presently a 12-person team, and the easiest way to describe what we do is, you know, I used to say we build websites. It doesn't really justify everything we do. You know, we do mobile applications, we do mobile websites, we do search and optimization, we do anything that basically surrounds what somebody needs to get their website or any kind of their digital project done. That's what we do.
Okay.
Yeah, we work with a lot of different kinds of clients. We really are trying to focus on you know, doing work that's creative, that's interesting, with interesting companies and organizations and nonprofits and foundations. And I'm really proud of everything we've managed to pull off in the past 15 years.
And clearly, I myself, having, you know, sort of being in that space and a former partner in that space, and knowing Stevie and kind of keeping up with what it is he's been doing, I obviously loved all of the stuff it is that you guys have done. I've got a few. Oh, I said I had one question earlier, but okay. I have a couple, perhaps.
Okay.
If you don't mind. In the bio, you describe it, and I think in general you're perceived as a boutique agency. Now, can you describe to me the difference between what a boutique agency is versus a standard digital agency, or is that just a fancy word for doing really nice crap?
Yeah, you know, it's a fancy word. It's a word that just keeps creeping up every so often, and we use it sometimes, we don't. I think it just means, you know, a smaller team. That's usually when people say the word boutique, that's what they mean. I mean, recently I was talking with somebody about how they saw us, somebody who was aware of our work, and they called us more handcrafted. In other words, they saw us really kind of like as fine craftsmen who take real attention to detail in the kind of work we do. So I guess the boutique word means something along those lines. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that nothing it is that you guys do I would call cookie cutter. So,
right.
And I'm a big fan of a lot of the stuff that you do. I recommend everybody go and check out a little bit of your portfolio to see just how different one project and one approach and one outcome is from the other. And I guess a lot of that is that hands-on approach your account managers or the people dealing directly with the client are heavily involved in, because my understanding is, and you've told me before, that you guys really get in deep when it comes to trying to pull out as much information to get because it's all subjective, right? I mean, nobody knows that more than you in terms of what a client says they want and what it ends up becoming, because it's like a work in progress from day one, and I don't think anybody really knows what the end result will be until you really start to get your hands dirty. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, look, if you at this point, if a company really wants to build up something online, they could probably go find a template somewhere, slap their content in, put a logo, and they're going to have a website. And maybe for some people that's fine. That's not what we do. We're in the business of taking care of our clients, of listening to what they're trying to do, and taking an in-depth look into how to best represent them from a design, from a content, from multiple perspectives to make sure that we're doing something that's the highest quality possible.
Right on, and I guess that leads me into the one major question I had for you, and it kind of relates a little bit to the one of the topics we'll be covering, careers for the digitally mindful.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned you started off as a freelancer, and the attendees that come to our events are anyone from a sole business owner wearing all of the hats to a marketing manager for a larger corporation, and I guess someone who's in this space, whether it's SEO or design. I mean, I guess what I'm getting at is to grow, and
Yep.
you've told me in the past that you like the idea that you remain a small business, but in order to do all the things that you're doing well, you've developed and put together a decent team at the same time. I'm curious to know, in terms of where you are now from '98 when you were a freelancer doing it part-time, what was whether it was a revelation or someone coming on board that that you couldn't do without, what was the single biggest contributor to the success that Plank has had? And I have some ideas what they might
Mm-hmm.
be, but I'd like to hear it from you, Warren.
Well, I mean, starting off, the big change was almost the mindset of like, when you're a freelancer, you've got, if let's say you're working out of your house or you're working in a co-working space like a lot of people do now, you're probably always just at that 40 hours of work or a little bit under, so it's always just like a struggle to find the next thing. But then at a certain point, you almost have to psychologically go, okay, well, I've got 40 hours of work for myself and maybe a little bit more. Let me go and get a space. Then a space turns into, then there's two of us. And then it's like, oh, we've got just enough work for the next person. So you kind of push forward a little bit. But I think, honestly, the thing that changed the most for us was when my partner left in 2004, where it became clear that it was kind of on my shoulders to actually take the reins of running the company, whereas before we were always playing hot potato back and forth on actually running the company. And doing that and investing into Plank as a project itself, as the same way I would if I was a designer, I had a different view of what it was to run a business, and I started to understand that the word business wasn't a dirty word in my head anymore. I was very idealistic up to that point, and then just something changed, and I see things just through different eyes now.
Yeah, and I know that in talking your work as a designer, and I'm sure you have a say or opinions on a lot of the stuff that goes out the door. I would imagine that even though you're telling me that you're not as involved with the day-to-day, that
Hmm.
your hands graze and you're sort of, I can see behind you, it's kind of open, so you're probably cruising around checking things out no matter what. But you were saying that you've evolved as well as a business owner, in the sense that the more people you've brought on, the more projects you've got to a point where you've got to oversee, because now
Hmm.
you're just the one person, along with Steve, obviously, I think, who looks after a lot of the creative stuff. Is that a fair statement?
Well, I mean, I would describe Steve as the person who really takes care of running the office and running production. On the point you're making, there's obviously in an open office space. I mean, everybody is sitting here while I'm doing this with you. There's an openness and what people can see of each other's work. But I'm a firm believer in letting people do their job. In other words, if I've got a creative director, I've got our senior designer, and if he's designing something, we might talk a bit back and forth about what he's doing. But at the end of the day, I'm going to stand behind his work because I believe, and he's here because I believe he can do the best work possible. And it's my job to trust and to do that, and not to kind of sit and nitpick at somebody's work. I don't think that helps anybody at all.
No, and I think that's where I was going, in the sense that your business has got to the point where you have to worry about bigger picture items and rely on those quality folks you've brought in to do their deal no matter what. And like you
Hmm.
said, trust the quality they're putting out there is representative of what you wanted it to be way back in '98 when you first started the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, trust is a big thing. If I didn't trust somebody, they shouldn't be here. And if somebody's here who I don't trust, then I'm the one who's making a mistake.
That's a good takeaway for people looking to get into business and start the whole snowball of partnering up and hiring staff, and I think, and I had a discussion with a good friend the other day where they were working with someone who they believed began to sort of undermine them in front of clients and stuff like that. And she mentioned that it gave her a little bit of a sinking feeling in her stomach, where you know, the minute you have that type of feeling, you either need to address it or sort of lop it off, you know, nip it in the bud and move on. Otherwise, you're not focusing on the task at hand, which is, you know, the client's happiness at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, agreed. I agree.
Cool. Is there anything you wanted to share with the folks? This will sort of be the last opportunity I think we'll get before the breakfast. Are you looking forward to it?
Yeah, I actually am. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not much of a morning person, but I'll do my best. And I'm happy to meet all the people who are going to be there, and I'll be definitely sticking around to answer any specific questions anybody has after the talk.
And I think this will be the first one we've got you out to. Is that right?
Like I said, I'm not much of a morning person.
Well, you do send Stevie in your stead, so that's cool. We have him there a lot of the time. So that's,
yeah, Steve is in charge of the mornings. I'm in charge of the afternoons and evenings.
Right on. Well, Dana's got good coffee, so you'll be in good hands.
Amazing. Cool.
Okay, thanks so much for your time, Warren. Again, Warren will be one of the panelists at the next breakfast, our first ever panel at La Bistrot, February 19th, 8 till 10 a.m. And the tickets will be posting in the comments or the description of this video. So thanks for your time, and thank you so much, Warren, for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for inviting me to the event.
Pleasure.
All right. Thanks.
Ciao.